A lot of property adverts and videos which you are going to come across are all about buying a property or buying real estate. What realtors post online these days are all about buy land, buy house, buy this, buy that. But is this all types of properties that you should be spending your money on? Is it all types of properties that you can buy or you should buy? In this episode of Meet the Property Guy, we'll be looking at 3 types of properties here in Nigeria which you should never buy. Now, in case you are coming across a videos like this for the first time, this Meet the Property Guy property channel, and this will discuss everything real estate here in Nigeria, either you want to buy, invest or sell a property. After watching the 3 types of properties which you should never buy, I also advise that you also watch some of our previous guides and videos. There are a couple of topics which we have covered already, which you are going to learn a lot from. Now, let's go to the 3 types of properties here in Nigeria which you should totally avoid and you should never buy. First type of property that you should never buy here in Nigeria are property without verifiable title documents. Now, this is very common when you are buying a community property or a community land, which you are buying. Maybe you are buying from one reseller to another, or you are buying from a family land. Most of this land, they don't have any documents on it apart from the family or the individual telling you he or she has been in possession of that property for a number of years. That's not genuine enough. There must be a document that a seller has to show that he or she is the rightful owner of that property, and he or she has a right to sell or transfer ownership of that property. Now, the importance of verifiable documents are number 1 is going to prevent you from buying a property that is under government acquisition, because if you buy a property that is already under government acquisition, in a number of years or at any point of time, the government can always come and remove you from that place. Either you have built there or you have been staying there for years, doesn't really matter. Now, the second importance of asking for this verifiable document is to prevent you from buying a property in dispute or buying a property that have already been sold to someone else. So it's always very important to know the title document that is on the property that you want to buy, and if the sellers cannot present any verifiable document on that property, just don't buy. The type of property here in Nigeria which you should totally avoid buying are properties with marks or signage or signs of demolition. Whenever you go to inspect a property and then in that neighborhood you see some demolition, a sign of demolition is like 1, 2, 3 different properties there, and some of the properties there you see markings on the wall like possession taking, you see markings on the wall like not for sale, you see markings on the wall like court order, all this kind of very serious warnings on different markings or on different walls in that neighborhood. I advise that you just don't buy, except you do some very deep findings by your lawyer, by your surveyor, just to be sure that this property are not under dispute. Most of the property that are under dispute, one of the very common scenario is that there will be signs of demolitions there, and there will always be different types of markings on the wall on that property. So any sign of violence on the property that you want to buy, either is a land or is a house, I will advise that you just don't buy those kind of property at all. So whenever you buy a property, you don't just inspect that property, also go to that neighborhood and see what's happening in that neighborhood, see what's happening to the houses, what's happening to the properties in that neighborhood, and ensure that you are not just buying a property that is already under a court case, or that you are buying a property that is under litigation. The third type of property here in Nigeria that you should never buy is a property that is just too cheap. Now, whenever I say the word too cheap, it doesn't mean that you are buying a property at 500,000 or you are buying a property at maybe 1 million. 10 million naira property can be too cheap for some certain locations. Cheap means that property is lesser than the actual market value, or is lesser than what's actually selling in that location. It's just like you want to buy a land at Chevron area, for example, and they are calling a 600 square meter for around maybe 15 million or 20 million. Whereas the actual market value for that area is around 65 or even 70 million for 600 square meter. So you can see the difference between 70 million or 65 million to 20 million. So whenever a property seems too cheap to the actual market value of that area, I advise that you don't buy. Yeah, there are always cases of distress where a seller can want to dispose a property as fast as possible because he or she wants to raise funds, but not when a price is slashed at maybe 50%, or the price is slashed at almost even 70%. So that's why one of the things I always advise property buyers is that the cheaper a property is, the higher the risk on that property. People that are selling property, their own property extremely cheap, are also smart. It's because likely the property may have a defect in the title, or that property might have other defects. Maybe those that are selling for 20 million, for example, is a dry land, while people that are selling their own at 8 million or 7 million are a wet land, which means that when you buy, you spend more to build them than when you buy the one for 20 million. Or it may be other cases or other scenarios on that property for them to be selling cheaper, which means that when you buy, you eventually are going to be spending more. So buying a cheaper property most times doesn't really mean that you are saving money. You are going to spend more in the long run. So that's why most times it's not really advisable when you want to buy a property that seems too cheap than what's selling in that location. For example, you may see some listings around Ibeju-Lekki at maybe 700k, some even for 300k, 500k for a plot. Whereas you see some properties at that same Ibeju-Lekki also selling at maybe 3 million, 3.6 or 3.8 million naira per plot. Number one, the distance for those two properties will be different, and then secondly, the title documents on that properties will be different, which means that those that are cheaper may carry a higher risk. So it's never always advisable for you to buy a property that is just too cheap. That's it. That's the 3 types of property here in Nigeria which you should avoid. Don't buy a property without any verifiable title documents. Don't buy a property with markings on the wall or different signs on the wall showing that the property is not for sale or is under court order or thereabout. And don't buy a property that just seems too cheap for the actual market value of that neighborhood. So if there is any property that you want to buy and you want us to advise you, either you should go for it or you shouldn't go for it, you can always reach us directly on our WhatsApp number, and then we can discuss one-on-one, can assess that property for you and give you our own different guides and advice on that. So I feel being the number one property guy on the planet, your property advisor, your property consultant, Mustafa. Thanks for watching this very important guys. Don't forget to go to our previous videos and learn more about investing and buying the property here in Nigeria. Thank you.